I see Pablo Ryan over there. I would generally say thank you for putting me on Hipsy, but after 10 hours of testimony to hear, I don't know, I may want to curse you out later. It's wonderful to be with a group, and please, y'all, eat your food, eat your food. And since we're in this special place, I think it's appropriate that I begin with a story from my time as an undercover officer in the CIA. When I was in Pakistan, I was asked to lead an expedition to Azad Kashmir following a devastating earthquake in 2005 that ultimately claimed the lives of 80,000 people. Our ambassador wanted his own eyes and ears on the ground to understand what the United States government could do to help the Pakistanis as they grappled with how to recover from such a disaster. The destruction from this earthquake was unbelievable. The number of people displaced and cut off from the rest of the country by debris was staggering. It was the height of winter and getting to negative 20 degrees below zero at night. Following our first reports, the ambassador immediately directed the U.S. military to provide helicopters to help move entire villages to safety, and I was helping to direct this airlift. We were packing CH-47 Chinook helicopters with 100 to 150 people each trip. And one of these days, I jumped on one of these helicopters to take me to my bed down location when we got a report of a village that had about 200 people that had been without food, running water, shelter, and electricity for about 3 or 4 days. So we decided to make one more run. As we landed, the crew slung open the big bay doors of the helicopter, and folks began pouring in. The officer manning the door was in full flight gear, which made him look like he was from outer space. One little girl, who couldn't have been more than 5 or 6 years old, had lost both her mother and father in the earthquake, and she was experiencing this whole scene and was afraid. She was screaming, she was crying, she refused to get on the helicopter. A village elder picked up this little girl and thrust her into my arms. She was yelling and she was scared. I held her as tight as I could, and halfway through the trip, she eventually relaxed and calmed down. When we reached our destination, everyone piled out from being packed in this helicopter. I put the little girl down, and she started to walk away. She took a few steps, turned around, ran back, and gave me the biggest hug I've ever gotten in my life. She then walked over to the helicopter crewman, who she probably first thought was from outer space, and kissed him on his hand. He patted her on the head, gave her a thumbs up. She smiled real big, returned that gesture, and then she ran away. That little girl's face is seared into my brain, because what we did in the aftermath of that earthquake showed how America is one of the few countries that have the resources and the willingness to help people even if they're 7,000 miles away. America has become an exceptional nation, not because of what we have taken, but because of what we have given. People all over the world know that America is a land of the free and the home of the brave. Our values are what have made America great and have served as beacons of hope to so many. Our policies, both overseas and at home, must align with our ideals. Jack Kemp, whose legacy we're honoring today, reminded us back in 1997 during a commencement speech at USC, and he said, and I quote, "It is not only in the far reaches of our globe that we face serious struggles for freedom and human dignity. If we believe our ideals, we must advocate for them in every community. If we believe, like Jack Kemp, in the power of opportunity, then we have to take this message to places that don't normally see Republicans." I grew up as the son of a black father and white mother in a neighborhood very few would characterize as a Republican stronghold. When my parents first moved to San Antonio, it took them almost a year to find a home. Realtors would give encouraging signals to my mom, but when she returned with my dad, the house would suddenly fall off the market. It was not in vogue to be an interracial couple in South Texas in the early 1970s. Despite this, their youngest son went on to serve in the CIA all over the globe, helped build a cybersecurity company, and then was elected to Congress 3 times. Why? Because throughout my life, My parents, teachers, coaches, and mentors all worked hard to help me access opportunities, and they helped prepare me to take advantage of those opportunities when they came my way. This concept of opportunity is at the core of the Republican ideal and is what has allowed people across this country to turn their American dream into an American reality. Now, in Matthew chapter 25, let's call it verse 40-ish, there's a story about how the Son of God is on the heavenly throne on Judgment Day, and all the nations are gathered before him, and he is going to render his verdict on whether folks are getting into the kingdom or not. There are only two outcomes: salvation or damnation. He sorts the crowd and puts some folks on his right, and then he puts the rest on his left, and Jesus turns to the folks on the right and says, and I'm paraphrasing here, come on in, y'all, you made it. Jesus tells the folks on the right, for the reason for his decision, for I was hungry and you gave me something to eat, I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink, I was a stranger and you invited me in, I needed clothes and you clothed me, I was sick and you looked after me, I was in prison and you came to visit me. The folks on his right were happy, but they said, Lord, when did we do all of this for you? Jesus' reply was very simple. Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. Now, Mother Teresa often quoted from this text to support her ministry to the poor. It is a good reminder for us as conservatives because we need to remember the people who haven't been able to turn their American dream into an American reality. Most of y'all read this recent Federal Reserve survey highlighting how 40% of Americans would struggle to cover an unexpected expense of $400, even with unemployment at a 50-year low. Our policies and ideas will be defined by the access to opportunities this group of Americans have to move up the economic ladder. We can't be satisfied with conceptual frameworks of how the least of our brothers and sisters are helped theoretically by free markets and capitalism. Put down the pie charts. Stop talking about macroeconomic theory. All of us here believe that the way we help families move up the economic ladder is through free markets, not socialism. How do we make free markets more accessible to more people? All of us believe that the way to solve problems in the future is by empowering people, not governments. How do we empower more people? All of us here believe in equality of opportunity, not equality of outcomes. How do we ensure all Americans have access to opportunity? Having represented one of the few swing districts in the country, I can tell you that independents and many Democrats agree with us. They are concerned with the direction the Democratic Party is going, and if we want to take advantage of this opportunity, we can't just talk to ourselves. I don't care where you live or who you are. You care about being able to put food on your table, a roof over your head, and the people you love living happy and healthy lives. Why have we ceded to the Democrats that they are the party that will stand up for the least of our brothers and sisters? One effect of not expanding our message, especially to communities of color, people under the age of 29, and suburban women, is that we are in danger of losing a Republican majority in the state house in my home state of Texas. If the Republican Party doesn't start looking like America and appealing to all Americans, there will not be a Republican Party in America. And the first step to sorting out this problem is very simple. Show up. When I first ran for Congress, I received an invitation to go to an afternoon party in a place called Eagle Pass. It's a border town between Texas and Mexico. It's about 90% Latino and 95% Democrat. A friend and I walked into the party, and 700 pairs of eyes fixated on us. 3 members of the band were local elected officials, and they actually stopped playing when we walked in, because all the people at this event were going to support the incumbent Democrat. Everyone who approached us, and it was close to about 200 people, asked me a version of the same question. Why are you here? Now, the folks in what I like to call the professional political class, they suggested that I promote my pro-life position, since a lot of Latinos are Catholics and most Catholics are against abortion. Instead of taking what I thought was incredibly naive advice. My response to everyone that day, when they asked me why I was there, was real simple. I like to drink beer and eat barbecue too. Everyone laughed and they slapped me on the back. The next time I showed up to Eagle Pass, people would shake my hand. Third time I showed up to Eagle Pass, people would walk by and be like, I'm a Republican, right? After I got elected and kept showing up, people would tell me their problems. Then in my return trips, after that, I would go tell them how I solved their problems. Our nation faces generational defining challenges, and to meet these challenges, the Republican Party must be engaged in the competition of ideas in every community across this country. If we fail to compete everywhere, we run the risk of failing to remain the most important economy in the world. We could allow a future where a struggling economy and overburdened government reduces our ability to respond to threats from our adversaries like China while eroding the quality of life of every American. But if we rise to the challenge, the way previous generations have risen to challenges facing them, we have the chance to improve the lives of millions of Americans and leave a better world to our kids and grandkids. Jack Kemp said at the 1976 Republican National Convention that, and I quote, "History turns on ideas, ideas rule the world, and the Republican Party has the principles and the ideas that the great body of American people embrace. We must translate them into a plan of action that both inspires people and wins elections." To do what Jack Kemp told us we needed to do more than 40 years ago, we must build a Republican Party that appeals to all Americans. We must be the party that is known for fighting for the least of our brothers and sisters, and we must take a message to communities of color, people under the age of 29, and suburban women, that the way we solve problems in the future is the way we have solved them in the past, by empowering people, not governments. This is our challenge. And I believe that our best days are ahead of us, because as I look across this audience, I see a group of thoughtful, committed, and proud Americans who are devoted to making this vision a reality. God bless you, and may God continue to bless these United States of America.